In a bustling downtown restaurant, a young waitress faces a humiliating encounter when a powerful CEO dismisses her with cruel words. Right in front of the entire dining room, the tension sharpens as whispers spread and eyes fixate, unsure what will happen next. But just as the CEO's arrogance peaks, a group of Marines seated nearby rises in unison, standing firmly by the waitress's side. Their unexpected show of solidarity sends shockwaves through the room, transforming scorn into silent respect and setting the stage for a story of courage, honor, and unexpected justice. The story unfolds in a well-known urban restaurant nestled in the heart of a thriving city, where the ambience blends modern elegance with a welcoming warmth. This venue is a favored spot for business lunches and casual dinners alike, known for its attentive service and diverse clientele. Among the staff is Emily, a young waitress in her mid-20s, who balances the challenges of her demanding job with a quiet determination. She is courteous, hardworking, and takes pride in her role despite the long hours and the occasional disrespect she faces. Emily comes from a modest background, juggling school and work to build a better future for herself and her younger siblings. On this particular afternoon, the restaurant is bustling with activity. Emily is assigned to a VIP table where a sharply dressed, middle-aged CEO, Mr. Jonathan Carlyle, is dining with several colleagues. Known in the city for his sharp business acumen and commanding presence, Carlyle carries himself with a confidence that borders on arrogance. His demeanor reflects the cutthroat corporate culture he thrives in, a world where power, status, and influence dominate interactions, often at the expense of kindness or humility. As Emily approaches the table to take their order, she greets Carlyle politely, offering recommendations with practiced professionalism. However, Carlyle's response is cold and dismissive, treating her more as an obstacle than a person. He questions her suggestions with thinly veiled contempt and interrupts her with curt demands. His attitude is not just rude, it is a reflection of a mindset where respect is reserved for the powerful and the privileged. The colleagues at his table exchange uncomfortable glances, aware but unwilling to challenge their leader. The restaurant's other patrons sense the mounting tension. The room, once filled with quiet chatter and clinking glasses, grows still. As whispers begin to ripple through the crowd, Emily remains composed, but inside, the sting of humiliation and injustice cuts deep. Her values, rooted in respect, dignity, and perseverance, clash starkly with the CEO's callousness. She silently recalls her upbringing, where humility and hard work were non-negotiable virtues, and the dreams she holds for a life defined by integrity rather than status. Nearby, a group of Marines on leave share a table. They are regular customers, drawn not just by the food, but by the camaraderie and respite the restaurant offers. From their demanding lives, each Marine carries the weight of service, their stories marked by sacrifice, discipline, and an unspoken code of honor. Among them is Sergeant Marcus Hayes, a natural leader whose calm strength commands attention, and Private First Class Daniel Reed, whose empathy shines through his quiet demeanor. Their presence adds an undercurrent of steadfast resilience to the atmosphere. As the interaction between Emily and Carlyle unfolds, the Marines observe with growing unease. Their values, rooted in loyalty, respect, and defense of the vulnerable, stand in sharp contrast to the CEO's behavior. They recognize in Emily not just a server, but a person embodying quiet courage and dignity under pressure. For them, the moment transcends a simple workplace conflict. It becomes a matter of principle. The stakes escalate as Carlyle's tone sharpens, his words more cutting, his dismissiveness blatant. Emily's role as a waitress, often overlooked and undervalued, is challenged in front of a public audience. The cultural tension is palpable between privilege and humility, arrogance and respect, power and humanity. Each person in the room is forced, in that suspended moment, to confront their own beliefs about fairness and courage. Yet, beneath the surface of this confrontation lies a deeper narrative, the unspoken bond between those who serve quietly and those who wield power loudly. Emily's struggle is a microcosm of broader societal challenges: the fight for recognition, the quest for dignity, and the resilience required to stand tall when faced with disdain. The Marines' impending Decision to rise for her is not impulsive, but born from shared values forged in adversity, and a profound sense of justice. As the tension thickens, the story prepares to pivot, setting the stage for an act of solidarity that will challenge assumptions, disrupt the social order of the room, and leave an indelible impression on everyone present. The scene is set not just for a confrontation, but for a powerful statement about respect, honor, and the courage to defend what is right, even in the smallest of moments. As the lunch service progressed, the atmosphere at the CEO's table grew increasingly hostile. Jonathan Carlyle's brusque manner worsened with each interaction, his words laced with impatience and thinly veiled disdain. Emily moved deftly between tables, trying to maintain her professionalism while suppressing the swelling discomfort that came with being publicly belittled. The laughter and snide remarks from Carlyle and his colleagues became louder, drawing the attention of nearby diners and staff. Marcus Hayes, the Marine sergeant at the adjacent table, exchanged glances with his comrades. He could see the impact Carlyle's words were having on Emily, not just the visible tension in her jaw or the slight tremor in her hands, but the deeper wound of having her dignity stripped away in a room full of strangers. For Marcus, this wasn't just a matter of poor manners, it was a question of fundamental respect, the kind that upheld the social fabric of community and fairness. The dilemma became clear: should they intervene, and if so, how? The Marines were trained to act decisively in defense of the vulnerable, but here, in this civilian setting, the rules were different. The conflict wasn't a battle zone, but a moral battlefield, a place where courage took the form of standing up for what was right in the face of silent complicity. Emily's humility and resilience struck a chord with Marcus and his team. She was not loud or confrontational. She bore the insults with quiet grace, embodying the principle that true strength lies in patience and dignity, not aggression. Yet, every moment Carlyle's words went unchecked, the injustice deepened. It was a test of character, both for the Marines and the surrounding patrons who bore witness. At one point, Carlyle scoffed openly. "You know, in my world, we don't waste time on waitresses. Efficiency and excellence, that's what matters. Maybe you should learn that." His tone was not just dismissive, but dehumanizing. It echoed a broader societal tension many could relate to: the undervaluing of honest, hard work when performed by those without prestige or power. Emily's eyes briefly flicked toward Marcus's table. She saw not just spectators but potential allies. The Marines' faces were set, expressions unreadable but resolute. Their silence carried the weight of unspoken agreement. A collective decision was forming. Suddenly, a sharp comment from Carlyle cut through the room like a blade. "I don't understand why they even let people like her work here. This place is for people who know what they're doing, not daydreamers who can't even keep a uniform clean." The laughter that followed was cruel and relentless. Emily's composure cracked for a split second, her throat tightening. She clenched her fists at her sides, drawing in a steadying breath. It was a moment of private defiance, a refusal to be broken by cruelty, but the room around her remained silent, most diners averting their eyes, unwilling to intervene, while others exchanged uncomfortable glances, but stayed rooted in their seats. Marcus could feel the tension suffocating the space, and with it, the slow erosion of basic decency. He leaned toward his team, voice low but firm. "This isn't just about a rude customer. It's about respect, something this guy clearly doesn't understand." His fellow Marines nodded, their own experiences with leadership, teamwork, and sacrifice underscoring the injustice before them. They knew too well the cost of disrespect and the damage it inflicted on morale and community. Trust. The ethical dilemma deepened when one of Carlyle's colleagues, a sharply dressed woman named Vanessa, whispered to him, "Maybe we should just leave it. It's not worth the hassle." Carlyle shrugged dismissively, but shot a warning glance toward the Marines' table, a silent challenge that only heightened the stakes. The restaurant staff exchanged worried looks. The manager, a middle-aged woman named Claudia, approached Emily quietly during a lull in service. "Are you okay?" she asked softly, offering a sympathetic smile. Emily nodded, her eyes betraying the strain beneath her calm exterior. Claudia's presence was a reminder of the often invisible community within workplaces. the unspoken support networks that bolster those under pressure. Yet, Claudia felt powerless, caught between customer service protocols and the moral imperative to protect her staff. Meanwhile, the Marines debated their next move. Daniel Reed, younger and less experienced, voiced his concern. "We can't just jump in and create a scene. This is a public place, not the battlefield." Marcus responded with a quiet intensity. "Respect is a battlefield, too, and sometimes the right fight is the one you take where you can wear. Injustice is plain and people are watching. If we stay silent, we become complicit." The narrative then explores the broader social tension at play, the contrast between societal hierarchies and the intrinsic worth of every individual. Regardless of rank or background, the audience is reminded of the German cultural emphasis on Fairness, Gerechtigkeit, Community Gemeinschaft, and respect for honest labor, Arbeitsethik. Carlyle's arrogance, emblematic of inherited privilege and entitlement, clashes with Emily's steadfast work ethic and humility. The audience is invited to reflect on how these dynamics play out in everyday life, the microcosms of workplace hierarchies and social inequality that often go unchallenged. The story heightens when Marcus decides to speak up, breaking the silence. He stands, his Marine uniform crisp and commanding attention. His voice cuts through the din. Firm but measured. "Sir, there's a line between demanding respect and demanding decency. You've crossed it. She's earned every inch of respect. You've denied her today." The room hushes. Some patrons shift uncomfortably. Others watch with admiration. Carlyle's face flushes, his smirk faltering. The power dynamics shift palpably as the Marine's presence and words challenge the CEO's entitlement. The conflict now becomes a test not only of individual courage, but of communal values. Will the community rally to uphold dignity and fairness? Will Carlyle's arrogance be confronted or ignored? At this point, the story plants a curiosity gap. Will the CEO acknowledge his wrongdoing or escalate the tension? Will Emily accept the support, or will the confrontation bring unintended consequences? The audience is held in suspense, eager to see how justice unfolds. The Marines' unity and principled stand inspire other patrons to voice quiet support nods, murmurs, subtle acts of solidarity. The restaurant transforms from a stage of humiliation to a space of communal reckoning. Yet, the conflict also acknowledges the complexity of human behavior. Marcus's intervention is met with resistance. Carlyle attempts to dismiss him as overstepping, asserting his social dominance. The tension remains unresolved, reflecting the real-world difficulties in confronting injustice where power imbalances exist. Throughout, the narrative weaves in reflections on work ethic and dignity, qualities deeply valued in German culture, and how these principles demand recognition beyond status or wealth. As the conflict reaches its crescendo, the moral weight of the situation is undeniable. This is not merely about a rude CEO and a mistreated waitress, but about the fundamental human need to be seen, respected, and valued. The audience is left with a powerful message. Fairness and respect are not privileges but rights earned through character and courage, not birth or title. The air in the restaurant had thickened, charged with a tension that reached beyond the clinking of cutlery and murmurs of other diners. Marcus's bold stand against Jonathan Carlyle's arrogance was a spark that lit a fire beneath the crowded room. But no one anticipated the weight of what was about to unfold, a revelation that would shatter assumptions and force every witness to reconsider everything they thought they knew. Jonathan's smirk faded, replaced by a flicker of something unreadable: anger, fear, maybe regret. His gaze snapped between the Marines standing firm and Emily, who, despite the humiliation, stood tall and composed. The laughter that had once filled the room was replaced by a hush, so deep it felt as if the very walls were holding their breath. Suddenly, the restaurant doors swung open with quiet urgency. A man stepped inside, a figure unfamiliar to most, yet unmistakably commanding in presence, dressed not in a uniform, but in simple civilian clothes. His bearing held the unmistakable weight of authority tempered by humility. Eyes scanned the room, settling briefly on the scene unfolding before him. It was Michael Graves, the retired Marine colonel known for his unyielding integrity. and decades-long friendship with Marcus Hayes. His arrival was not a coincidence. Marcus had called him earlier, sensing that the situation might need more than just words to restore balance. Michael's voice cut through the silence with calm power. "Jonathan Carlyle, I believe it's time we talked." The CEO stiffened. The challenge was unmistakable. Michael turned toward Emily, his eyes softening. "And you, Emily, deserve better than this, better than anyone here has given you." The room shifted. Patrons leaned in, some reaching for their phones, others simply watching, caught in the gravity of the moment. The story had transformed from a petty conflict to a stage for truth and justice. Michael's next words dropped like thunder. "Jonathan, you forget that respect is earned by how we treat others, not by the titles we carry. Emily here, she's not just a waitress. She's the daughter of Marcus West, a decorated war hero who served alongside me in Afghanistan." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Emily's eyes widened in disbelief. She hadn't told anyone. Not here, not now. The secret she had guarded, the legacy she carried silently, was laid bare in a single sentence. Jonathan's confident mask cracked. I didn't know," he stammered, but the damage was done. Michael continued, unwavering. "Marcus West's name is synonymous with courage, sacrifice, and honor. His daughter carries that legacy not on medals or plaques, but in her strength and quiet dignity." Emily looked down, emotions swirling, pride, pain, and a fierce sense of vindication. She had come here to serve, to build her own path, but the shadows of her father's battles had followed her. Unseen yet unyielding, Marcus stepped forward, voice steady and respectful. "Emily has fought battles of her own, the battles of respect, equality, and perseverance. She didn't need this place to define her worth. She earned it every day, with every shift." The tables had turned. What had begun as a story of humiliation was now a story of recognition and redemption. Jonathan Carlyle, once the arrogant CEO, swallowed hard. His facade of entitlement crumbled as Michael's words echoed in his mind. The room waited for his response. After a tense pause, Carlyle finally spoke, his voice softer, edged with humility. I owe you all an apology. Emily, I treated you unfairly, not because of who you are, but because of my own ignorance and pride." The admission hung heavy, sincere and raw. The tension in the room began to ease, replaced by a collective sense of relief and respect. But the twist wasn't over. From the back of the room, a soft voice spoke, one of the restaurant's older patrons, a veteran who had watched the entire scene unfold with quiet admiration. "It's not just about apologies," he said. "It's about changing how we see each other. Respect isn't a privilege for the few, it's a right for all." His words rippled through the room like a gentle wave, touching hearts and minds alike. Then, unexpectedly, Emily stepped forward, not with anger or bitterness, but with grace and quiet strength. She addressed Jonathan directly, her voice steady. "Thank you for your words, but respect isn't something I ask for, it's something I expect, for myself and for everyone who works with dignity, no matter their role." Her words struck a chord that resonated far beyond the restaurant's walls. The patrons began to applaud, not just for Emily, but for the principles she embodied, the belief in fairness, dignity, and community. Marcus and his Marines rose with the applause, their support unwavering. The climax reached its emotional peak as Michael laid a hand gently on Emily's shoulder. "This is just the beginning. Change starts with moments like this, when courage meets compassion and truth breaks through prejudice." The story closed the gap between personal struggle and universal truth. It revealed that behind every misunderstood figure is a legacy, a battle fought in silence, a strength unseen yet undeniable. In this moment, Emily was no longer just a waitress or a target of ridicule. She was a symbol, a beacon for anyone who had ever been dismissed, underestimated, or silenced. And for Jonathan Carlyle, the experience was a harsh but necessary reckoning, a chance to rebuild not just his respect for others but his own character. As the applause died down, the story's emotional payoff settled into the hearts of all present, that dignity and respect transcend rank, wealth, or title. They are the currency of true leadership, earned through humility and courage. The restaurant had slowly returned to its usual rhythm. the clatter of plates and murmur of conversation filling the air once again. But the atmosphere was forever changed. The raw tension that had gripped the room moments ago had transformed into a quiet, profound sense of justice not born of grand speeches or public spectacle, but from a simple act of standing up for what is right. In the wake of confrontation and revelation, there was a collective breath held, a moment of reckoning that had unfolded gently but irrevocably. Emily returned to her duties with a newfound calm, her steps lighter, her posture less burdened. The humiliation that had once weighed heavily upon her like an unseen shroud was now replaced with a quiet strength that radiated from within. She no longer felt invisible or dismissed. Instead, she was acknowledged not for the name she carried or the legacy she bore, but for the dignity she embodied every day in her work and her life. Marcus Hayes, standing beside his fellow Marines, felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Their solidarity had not been about confrontation alone, it had been about restoring balance and reminding the community that respect is earned not through privilege or power, but through integrity and humanity. Their gesture was a reminder that true strength is often quiet and steady, seen in actions rather than words. Jonathan Carlyle's journey towards redemption had just begun. The CEO, now confronted with the consequences of his arrogance and cruelty, faced a moment of genuine accountability. It was clear to all present and to himself that respect was not an entitlement, but a responsibility. He realized that leadership was not wielded by command alone, but earned through humility, empathy, and fairness. In the days that followed, Jonathan made concerted efforts to mend the fractures his behavior had caused. Publicly and privately, he apologized to Emily and to the Marines, acknowledging the pain his words had inflicted and committing to a change in how he treated those around him. His apologies were not mere formalities but carried the weight of sincere regret and a desire to grow. More importantly, Jonathan initiated changes within his company and the organizations connected to the gala. Training programs on workplace respect, diversity, and inclusion were launched, emphasizing the values of fairness and dignity for all employees, regardless of position or background. His actions sent a clear message: discrimination and condescension would no longer be tolerated. Emily, while gracious in accepting the apologies, remained grounded. She understood that change is not instantaneous, and that true respect is shown in consistent actions over time. Her focus stayed on her work, her commitment to excellence, and her own journey, not seeking vindication, but embodying the resilience that had brought her this far. The Marines, too, found themselves touched by the experience. Their intervention had reminded them of the power of community and solidarity beyond the battlefield. They returned to their duties with renewed purpose, carrying forward the lessons of courage not just in combat, but in everyday life, standing up for those who could not stand alone. For the guests at the gala and the patrons who had witnessed the event, the story became more than an isolated incident. It sparked conversations about respect, equality, and the unseen struggles many endure. The tale of Emily and the Marines was shared quietly but persistently, an example of how dignity must be recognized and defended, even in unexpected places. Among the attendees, some reflected on their own behavior and assumptions, questioning the judgments they'd made based on appearances or status. The story challenged the audience to reconsider what true leadership looks like, not just in grand gestures, but in the daily interactions that build or break trust and respect. Emily's quiet courage inspired others beyond the restaurant walls. She received letters and messages from individuals who had faced similar dismissals or injustices, people who saw in her a reflection of their own struggles and a beacon of hope. Her story became a testament to the power of resilience and the importance of standing firm in one's dignity, even when the world tries to diminish it. The gala organizers recognized the moment's significance and decided to dedicate the next event to celebrating unsung heroes, the everyday people whose quiet strength forms the backbone of communities. Emily was invited as a guest of honor, her presence symbolizing a shift towards genuine respect and acknowledgement. On a personal level, Emily found peace in knowing that her perseverance had helped change a culture rooted too long in privilege. And disregard. The scars of humiliation did not vanish overnight, but the support she had received, both public and private, helped heal the wounds and fostered a renewed sense of belonging. Marcus and Emily remained lifelong friends, their bond forged in the heat of adversity and tempered by mutual respect. Their story, passed down through military circles and civilian communities alike, became a powerful narrative about the intersection of courage, justice, and humility. The Marines continued their mission, carrying the lesson forward that heroism extends beyond the battlefield and into every act of defense against injustice and disrespect. They understood now more than ever that standing up for others is as vital as any strategic victory. For Jonathan Carlyle, the experience was transformative. He emerged from the shadow of his arrogance, humbled but determined to be a better leader, a leader who listens, learns, and acts with integrity. His journey was a reminder that redemption is possible when one faces mistakes with honesty and chooses the harder path of change. The restaurant where the incident occurred became a quiet symbol of progress. Its walls bore witness to a moment when courage overcame prejudice, when unity triumphed over division. Patrons returned with a new appreciation for the staff, not just as servers or workers, but as individuals worthy of respect and dignity. Ultimately, the story of Emily and the Marines was not just about one incident of rudeness or a stand against it. It was a microcosm of broader social truths, the necessity of fairness in community, the value of every individual's contribution, and the enduring strength found in quiet dignity. As the sun set on that chapter, the echoes of that evening lingered not as loud declarations, but as steady reminders that respect is the foundation of all meaningful relationships. It is earned through empathy, defended through courage, and preserved through accountability. And for those who had witnessed or heard of this story, a simple truth remained clear. In a world quick to judge by titles or appearances, it is character and kindness that truly define us. As you've seen, respect and dignity aren't just words, they're the quiet, powerful forces that shape our communities and lives. This story reminds us that true strength lies not in titles or status, but in standing up for what's right, even when it's hard. It's about honoring those who work behind the scenes, who face unfairness with quiet courage, and who inspire change simply by being themselves. Now, we want to hear from you. What single word captures the strength and dignity you see in everyday heroes? Comment below with respect or word, or another word that means something powerful to you. Let's celebrate those who live with honor and remind the world that respect is earned through character, kindness, and courage. Together, we can make respect visible, share this story, and keep the conversation alive.